Hello and welcome everybody to Automation Talk. Again, my name is Shane Kreider. I'm the host, and joining me today is Richard Palmer. He's from our business development team, and Richard's been over here helping me out this year and doing a great job helping do some demos and show some of the equipment. And he's just as familiar, if sometimes even more familiar with the equipment, because he gets to play with it a little bit more on a day-to-day basis with our customers. I just spend a lot of time trying to put the PowerPoints together and make them look pretty. But today what we're going to talk about is our CLICK PLC. Now, we launched a CLICK PLC, what, 2 years ago, Richard?
Yeah, a little over 2 years ago.
Okay. And we've given this one before, but we've launched some new modules and some new processors for the CLICK PLC. So what we're going to do today is actually show you some of those and then do some little demo and show you where you can get the free software and whatnot for those. So we'll go ahead and get started. Let me see if I can go through the slides. Well, first of all, the CLICK PLC, is built for discrete, and then we added analog. And as you can see, I'll just try to sort of demo some of these in my hands. You can actually buy one of these modules, which is the processor. It has some built-in I/O on it, and you can get away with just using one of these. Now, you have to power it from some other source, so you can purchase a power supply like we've got on this other one over here. Let me see if they'll back out just a little bit with the camera. Got a couple little demo units here. You can purchase an AC or DC power supply there, but you can also supply it with an external power supply. And as you can see, you got digital in, digital out, and then with some of them, the one I have here, we've broken them into 3 different categories now, Richard. Right? It's
right.
What basic, standard, and analog. Right?
Right. Yeah.
Okay, we got a slide on that, but we'll go into a little bit more on it. The one I've got in my hand is called a standard. This is the newest processor that we're selling. The difference is it's just got standard inputs and outputs, discrete inputs and outputs, but it adds the RS-485 communications port.
Right.
Are there any other features that they added to that, or is that?
Yeah. I mean, it also has the real-time clock in it. The basic one does not have a real-time clock. So if you're doing something that's based on time of day, you're turning something on and off based on time of day. Maybe it's lights or your sprinklers or whatever. You'd need that time. You'd need the real-time clock in there to be able to access that.
Yeah, it's a very handy feature when you're definitely trying to use some type of clock calendar and keep
right.
up with. Let me go through a little bit more, and then like I said, I broke these down in some better slides, but this is sort of an overview. Like I said, you've got the digital in, digital out. You've got the analog. It has some digital in, digital out with analog inputs and outputs on it as well. 2 built-in RS-232 communications ports on all of them, and then on like the one I've got in my hand here, the standard, and then the analog, you have the additional RS-485 communications ports. And you can see some of the other features that we've got on there as well. One of the nicest things is the software is free for these. So you can go to our website, download the software at any time. Richard's going to show you where you can get it at and what the software just sort of look and feel. And it's really easy to use. When I first started programming with it 2 years ago, I didn't hardly have time to go to any of the classes, so I was trying to learn it real quick for one of our demonstration videos, and it was easy enough that I could just load it up, start it in it, and it was a couple little questions. I might have to go look at the help file, but just overall, I mean, it's pretty basic and easy to get through, but it's very powerful. All right, here we go. We're going to talk about, like I said, we have 11 CPU models now. Like we added the one there in the middle of the slide that is our standard. That's the one I've got in my hand. We started out with basic CPU. We had it for about a year. Then we added analog CPUs, and then they came out with the standard because some customers didn't want analog, but they did need all the other options like the 485 communications port, and like what Richard was talking about. You've got the clock calendar features and whatnot. Next, the CPU specs, sort of what we went over just a second ago. The standard and the basic inputs and outputs on it. Then you add the analog, so you have a few less discrete inputs and outputs, but then you have the additional analog inputs and outputs. And you can expand these with up to 8 I/O modules. Like I had this one originally when I grabbed hold of it. You can use a CPU without any I/O, or you can purchase I/O and snap them all together. Just going to set that up there. Now, Richard, if you get up to 8 I/O modules, that's pretty much it. There's no expansion. There's no remote I/O or anything like that, right?
No, not really. I mean, you could possibly take and communicate to another CLICK rack over Modbus or something like that, but there's no true remote I/O for this. I mean, 8 modules is about it. It's designed to be a small PLC where where you're using it for a small application, you know, where you don't have a whole lot of I/O. If you need
Right.
if you need more I/O, you might want to look at like a DL06 or a 205 PLC, or maybe even a Productivity Pro.
Right. Right. That's why we did that. We try to bring it in as a low cost, you know, get you in the door with the cheapest PLC that we could get you in there with, free software and so forth. I just noticed that you had the CLICK T-shirt on. Sorry. That sort of cracked me up. Expansion I/O modules, well, we broke these down into inputs. As you can see there, we've got some AC, DC inputs, expansion I/O outputs, broke those down as well. And you can always go back and get these PowerPoints. We typically will post these out on the website as well afterwards, or you can go back and watch these also. But you can find any of these on our website at AutomationDirect.com. And what we have is we have some new 24-volt AC/DC input modules. And I did find it on the website. I think I only found these under AC. If you go to AC inputs, right, they had them listed there. They didn't have them listed under DCs. I was going to make a recommendation. I'm sure somebody else already has. But yeah, we have new AC/DC input modules. These are really nice. And like I said, powering the CLICK, you can do it with an external power supply, like right, we've talked about here, or we show here, or you can buy the optional ones that we've got. And with the optional ones, the cheaper of the two, as you can see, you're limited to a certain power budget. If you buy the more expensive one, you don't ever have to worry about a power budget. You can just throw it all the way up to 8 I/O modules and not worry about it.
That's right.
Okay, built-in communications on the processors. The basic CPU is what Richard's connected up to over on his right-hand side, but like I said, we had the basic, we got the standard and the analog. The basic has 2 RS-232 communications ports. As you can see on the slide, we got the Modbus RTU. You know, port 1 and port 2, it shows what they're primarily used for. A lot of times, that one's not connected up to anything. See if you can go to change the camera. There you go. I don't know if you can zoom in here or not, or you can just show it. We've got an HMI here. We've got a Seymour Micro on it, and we're running bottom port, just a standard bottom port on it over to the HMI. Richard, what kind of, you deal with some of our customers, what kind of other communications devices do you see people connecting up to CLICK other than, say, our HMI?
All sorts of different things. I mean, you know, some people take and connect CLICK up to gateway devices to talk to other PLCs that don't have a Modbus protocol. We see people connecting the CLICK up to field devices, you know, such as pressure transmitters, flow transmitters, all sorts of various things like that, servos, stepper systems, just all sorts of different things that talk Modbus and or ASCII, okay, that they can get to out of either the 485 port or on the standard or the analog model, or just off of port 2 on the basic model or any of the other up to as well.
I think Tom and I did a demonstration in here, and he did demonstrate the ASCII, and we were actually printing out to a printer, and then he switched over and had a scanner scanning in, had some barcodes and stuff he scanned in. That was pretty interesting. It was pretty easy for him to set it all up. But I know you deal with real world examples, and we're just sort of making up some demos in here of what we try to use for good demos. But it's nice to hear what people are actually using these things for out in the field.
Right.
Yeah, like we said there, we've got the communications on the standard and the analog. That's the additional 485, and like what Richard said, you could use it for other things. I sort of miss talking to customers in the field, and like I said, you know, we request, you know, give us your app notes, your app stories when you sign up. And every once in a while, I get somebody, they'll have a pretty interesting story. But I know in tech support, you'd always hear, you know, just something wild. You know, we're shooting it through a satellite through NASA and beaming it back down in another country, and you're like, what? And it
yeah, you definitely get interesting stories in the technical support department.
Yeah,
and things that we would have never dreamed of a PLC being used for. I mean, you know, our customer base, you know, people ask about it all the time. What is your customer base? Our customer base is so broad, it defies explanation as to what any particular group of customers is doing, because we've got people, you know, from every imaginable field that there is using our PLCs for stuff that I would have never ever dreamed of using a PLC for.
When you try to explain to people what the PLCs are used for, you always, well, a bottling plant or an automotive plant, but those are pretty big, you know. Sometimes they're like, well, if you get in an elevator, you know, that's typically what's running an elevator. You go to the car wash, that's what's running a car wash. Haunted houses, you know,
Right.
we have a lot of haunted houses that use our equipment. Yeah, I mean, we've had art galleries. We've had somebody as simple as just a store wants a door counter every time somebody walks through.
Several major theater groups.
Yes, yes.
You know, so just all sorts of different applications you would have never ever thought of a PLC being used for.
Let me get back to the slides so I don't get too far off. The CLICK PLC uses decimal addressing. It makes life a lot easier there. But you know, you can read the slide. I'm going to let Richard show a little bit of just a quick demonstration when we get into the software, just how easy it is to go in and program and access the I/O on the CLICK. The basic CPU overview, I just left these slides on here just because it actually brought out some of the nice features of each processor. But as you can see there, you know, you get everything labeled, you've got your inputs, your outputs, and like I said, this is the basic one with no analog, and it has no RS-485 communications. And as you can see, the power terminal is on the very bottom of the PLC. And over on this demo here, I actually unplugged it, so if I was just going to power it up from an external power source, I have a terminal that you just plug right into the bottom there. It's not very visible on the pictures. This is the analog one. Same thing there, except for you've got the added 485 communications port, and it shows some of the other features that they've added in, like the real-time clock calendar, the battery backup, and so forth. I know battery backup, that was a big deal
Right.
for our direct logic PLCs. You get a lot of...
It's still a big deal for CLICK as well. I mean, if you're taking and shipping something to a customer and you're not sure the customer's going to be starting the equipment back up and applying power within a week or two, you know, you probably ought to get one of the battery back models and put a battery in it just to be on the safe side.
I know we have a local distributor in Atlanta that's, I mean, they're a very large chemical plant, and they would always keep processors just in stock. And it shocked me because a lot of people don't. You know, they don't keep backup equipment. They call when something goes down and say, I need it yesterday. This company kept stuff on the shelf, but their issue was it would sit on the shelf for so long, but it didn't have a battery backup, so it would dissipate, and they would have some issues. But yeah, we finally got them to switch over some newer models that had battery backed up, and never heard from them again after that with an issue. Analog is so easy to set up on the CLICK. If you're familiar with our direct logic PLCs, you'll know that you have to go in, especially say for the 205, you actually have to use, there's two different methods. You have to figure out which card the analog card is in the slot. You have to tell it, you know, where you want the addressing to start at, and so forth. As you can see on this slide here, analog is so extremely easy.
Yeah, basically all you do is you tell it, yeah, I'm using analog. It's either 4 to 20 or voltage, and then you take and give it your engineered units range, a tag, and pretty much you're done. I mean, it's not a whole lot more to it than that.
That would make me buy the CLICK over some other brand PLCs any day. Free programming software. Like I said, this isn't just a promotional thing. We plan to keep programming software for the CLICK PLC free forever. You know, we're going to sell the software, a hard copy of the software, and basically the cost of that just covers the CD or DVD in the case. But right now you can go to our website, you can get it for free, you can start programming and pick up a processor really cheap, start throwing together some stuff. But you can see there's a link on that slide, and also I'm going to get Richard to show you real quick. So I think we're into the demo. So if Richard, if you're on the website, if I get the guys to kick over to his computer, and if you'll show the customers exactly where they can find the free software at, and then we'll go from there.
Go get the free software. Up here at the top of the page, or underneath the black banner, you'll see there's a link that says Tech Support. You hover over the link, and it pops up a little banner right underneath it, and you can go to this link that says Software Firmware Downloads. Click on that link, and it will take, and get you to this page here. Just go down the list till you see CLICK Programming Software, and click on that. Download the file. It's a zip archive. Extract it out. Click the install button, and you're on your way to installing CLICK. It's that easy.
Okay, cool. And also, if they want documentation, they can find it off of the support side as well.
Yeah, you can get that off the support side as well. Go back here, go to the tech support, or actually go to manuals and documents up here in the header bar, and then click on product manuals. And again, we've got all of our manuals here listed. Click on the CLICK PLC family. It takes you right to the manual. There's the hardware user manual. You notice there's no software user manual here, Shane.
Why is that, Richard?
Well, because we took and did the smart thing and put all the software help in the software itself. I know it sounds like a crazy idea, but that's what happened with it. It's all in the software. You can click the help button any place in the software and actually get real help.
Why would we do that? I thought that we like the engineers to carry around manuals everywhere they went in their toolbox.
Well, I mean, if you're programming the PLC, you've already got the software, right?
Right.
Why do you need a manual?
Yeah, we're just being facetious. We're trying to do that with all of our new any of our new products, because Richard and I both worked in tech support, and it's like every time you got into software, you better go grab the right manuals, and a lot of times there's multiple manuals. It wasn't just one manual. It depended on which hardware you had, so you had to figure it all out. But yeah, we're just dumping everything in there, and the documentation guys are doing some excellent jobs. I mean, they're using some really good.
Absolutely fantastic. I mean, we started it off with Seymour back, about 6 years ago, putting the documentation in that for it, and then we've moved on. We did it in the Productivity 3000. We've done it in the CLICK, and I think we're probably going to continue that trend for the rest of our software as well, because if you are out on site, you may or may not have the hard manual with you.
Sure.
So if you've got it there in soft form in the help file, for the most part, if you don't get your question answered in the help file, it's probably something that's not a standard answer.
Right.
So you can always call into our tech support. It's free.
It is free.
Yep. So email.
There you go.
Whichever way you want to do it.
All right, Richard, if you'll just show them a little bit on the before y'all switch over to the software, guys. Richard's going to demo over there with the basic CPU. This is like I said, one of our first ones we launched. Now, Richard, I'm using a cable that we can purchase. Basically, it's got a USB converter on it, and then plugs into port 1. There's a couple different ways you can plug into that. Or
sure. I mean, you can take and use this cable. This is the CLICK and Seymour Micro programming cable. It's got a USB to serial adapter on it, and if you're powering if you need to program one of the Seymour Micros, it provides power to the Seymour Micro, so you don't have to have an external power supply. Because you can power the Seymour Micro, some of the models, off of the CPU port.
Yeah. See if the guys. Yeah, this is like a little demo that I think we actually do sell this one. You might have to call in to get it, but it's basically for educational purposes. But yeah, it's actually programming, or it's powering up the Seymour Micro. The Seymour Micro has no power supply anywhere on it. It's going through this cable off the main port. It comes
powered right off the COM port. So this programming cable here will actually do that. It'll power that up, and you can use it to program the CLICK. You can use it to program the Direct Logic PLCs. So it makes it a great buy if you're needing a USB to serial converter and you're using our PLCs and our HMIs to be able to power and program those with.
Now let's just say I'm lucky enough to have a serial communications port on my computer.
Oh, no problem.
Can I use one of the old cables?
Absolutely. If you've got a D2DS CBL, which is the part number for the Direct Logic programming cable, you can absolutely use that to program your CLICK with.
Okay, cool.
No problem.
Cool. All right, so Richard's going to go and show you the software, maybe just sort of browse through it a little bit. And
all right. Starting off here, you've got 3 ways you can take and start up a new project. You can either start a new project, you can open an existing project, or you can connect to the PLC and download the project out of it. Whichever way you want to do it. We're going to start off like you're doing one from scratch. You don't have your PLC yet. You've got it on order, and you're waiting for the next day when Automation Direct is going to have it to you.
Right.
So we click on Start New Project, and you see we come up with a blank screen that's got the cursor and everything on it, where you can start programming. The very first thing you're going to want to do, if you don't have your PLC here with you, would be to go up to Setup and say System Configuration. And you want to set up your system configuration. If you're using one of the CLICK power supplies, and here where it says PS, you take and pick the power supply model you're using, or you click External Power Supply, one of the two.
Now I'm going to apologize because when you click on CPU, it's probably not going to show all the new ones. I don't think I updated that.
Oh, it's got there. It's got them all on it. So we're good. So yeah, we've got only one it doesn't have is the new standard one.
Yeah, it doesn't have
the
standard
analog on it, but that's fine. So we say we're going to do one of the analog CPUs.
Okay.
So we're going to take and pick the model number off of that. Again, click OK. And if you notice over here, under the CPU detailed information, it tells you everything that you really want to know probably about the CPU model. So it's a little bit easier to take and help figure out which one that you ordered if you don't happen to have the part number right handy. All right, if you're going to stack on any additional I/O modules, you'd do that over here as well. But we're not going to do that this time. We're just going to stick with the CPU and everything. All right, so we would do that and say OK, and we're done with that. And let's see, now we would want to take, since we picked one of the analog modules, we want to go back up to the setup again and pick CPU built-in I/O setup, because we want to set up our analog, right?
Right.
So we've got analog in, so we want to decide if we're doing voltage or we're doing current. So we'd pick that, we'd get the input range of the current, and then we need to put in our scaled value. 0 to 100 is what comes by default, and it puts it out in a default register for you. If you need to change that register,
so you can scale it right there. You don't have to write any special code.
Absolutely, you don't have to do the y equals mx plus b scaling to get that. It's all done for you.
No algorithms.
No algorithms, and you gotta love it. So you see, go here to your data register. If you want to use DF1, you certainly can, or you can pick another register by clicking the little ellipsis over here to the side. So it shows you what registers, it grays out what registers are invalid, and it shows you only the registers that are valid. So if you want to start it at 101, you could certainly do that and pick it, and then say OK. And now your registers are starting at 01 or 101, DF101. For your output, it tells you again the same type of thing. You know, you want to change where it's going to be going to. Maybe you want to make it DF201 or something. And that's it. You're done setting your PLC up.
Right.
Now you're ready to take and actually do some programming. You know, the easy way, of course, is doing drag and drop. Drop a normally open coil and go in and pick what coil you want. You know, if you want X's, you pick X1. That would be your first input on the PLC. Say OK. Go over to the output and then pick what you want to do with it. This is one of those things that kind of confuses people a little bit, and that's the reason I'm going to demonstrate this.
Okay.
How to take and put in a timer. If you drag your timer over here and you take and pick your timer number, all right, we're just going to leave it at T1, and you pick your set point, and we're just going to give it a hard fixed set point. We could pick DF2 or D1, or
which means it's going to pull some value from some other place, or from an HMI.
Yeah, from a memory register. HMI may be putting it in there. It may just be a variable memory register that you're setting through the software through the data view.
Okay.
But so we're just going to put it in there, you know, and we're going to make it, you know, a 10 millisecond timer. It's on delay. Everything's just fine. We're going to drop that guy in there. Okay. And that's there. So now we're going to take, and every time that time's out, we want to take and drop in another contact right here, and we want to pick our timer 1 done bit. Okay. Now then we're going to drop in a counter, and we're going to tell it what counter number we're doing. We're doing CT1 again. Set point, we want it to happen 20 times. It's the count up timer. And we notice something different on this one, Shane. If you look right here, we've got a reset leg that doesn't have a wire going over to the far side.
Right. Well, that causes an error.
That's going to cause an error. So the easy way to do it is put your cursor right there, hold down the control key, and arrow over, and draw the wire in for it. Now everything's all happy and everything, and it'll compile without giving you an error.
Cool.
So we want to take and do, again, drop us another contact in, and say, whenever counter 1 is done, so we go up pick CT1. When CT1 gets to 20, it's going to reset and start counting over. Last thing we need to do is drop an end statement in here so that it will actually compile and run.
Okay.
So that's how quick it is getting an actual program up and running. Now we need to take and drop that into the PLC. You actually need to connect up, right?
Right.
So we go back up the top and we say PLC menu and go to connect.
Right. And
we've already got our link defined. If we didn't have our link defined, we could certainly do it you know, by adding a link. It's pretty easy. The defaults are 38,400 baud. The address is 1 by default unless you've changed it. Parity bits odd, stop bits 1. And you get this handy drop down to pick what COM port you're using. So ours happens to be COM 5 because we're using that USB to serial adapter.
Right.
So we pick that and we say OK.
It's going to tell you something's different there.
Yeah, it's going to come up and say, hey, wait a minute, something's different here. Do you want to read the project out of the PLC or don't read the project out of the PLC? I'm going to choose to use this project we've already made up.
Okay.
And I'm going to click that. It's going to say OK. So now we're at the point we need to drop our project into the PLC, right?
Right.
So we go back to the PLC menu, and we go down here where it says Write Project into PLC. Click that. It's going to start compiling. You see a little compile window coming up down here at the bottom of the screen where it's going to tell you if you have any errors, what the errors are,
right,
what line numbers are on, and what's actually wrong with it. So you take and do that. There's a little checkbox here whenever you come up with this read-write window that says you want to save the project to PLC memory. That means it takes and puts your entire project in there with all your descriptions and everything else. Takes up more memory to do that, but once you come back to this later and you pull everything out, you'll have all your descriptions saved with it. You won't have to hunt for them. But if you're running out of room, you may need to uncheck that box.
Right.
So click OK. It tells me I didn't save it, so we need to give it a little name. Say save. It's going to go off and save it. Now it's warning me yet again that there's differences between what I'm trying to write in here and what's in the PLC.
Right.
So you're getting plenty of warnings that.
So if you still screw something up, then
if you still make a mistake, you've been warned multiple times before you do it. So now it's actually writing the program into the PLC.
Now, what if it comes up and says, "Hey, there's differences between what you programmed as far as your PLC and what it's connecting up to"?
Well, then in that case, you'd need to go back to the setup window and change the PLC model,
right,
and fix that.
Okay.
So it's really easy to do. If you do want to take and send your project to a different model of PLC than what you originally programmed for, it's pretty easy. You just go back into the system configuration. Yep. See, there's differences in system configuration between the PLC and PC. So you want to actually take and pick what this is. It would let you. It won't let me right at the moment because I'm online with it.
Right.
Because since it's online, it knows what's out there. It's not going to let me change it. But if I was offline, all these buttons would be lit up, and it'd let me change the configuration to be what it actually is.
Okay.
So
cool.
That's it. That's about as easy as it gets for taking and getting a person started with it.
Now, y'all can go back to video. There we go. Where Richard showed you where you can get the free software and also we can get the manuals and stuff. If you go to the support site off of Automation Direct's website, there's a lot of let's say demo projects. There's a lot of example projects.
Yeah, we've got example projects. We've got a very active user help forum where you can go into the forum and ask some of the other customers questions, and they'll take and help you. We've got some really helpful guys in there that know a lot about our products,
right,
and they'll take and help you get your answer. If you can phrase your question to get them to understand what you need, they can help get you an answer for it.
And most of the times, any of the demonstrations that we use in here, I mean, what Richard did was very simple, but a lot of the demo or projects that we use, we always post them out on the website anyway, because a lot of times we'd had one that we'd used several times, like Bruce Perry and Tech Support had used, and people were like, well, I want that one, I want that one. I'm like, yeah, we should put that out. So we just make sure we started anything we're using in here, we put out on the website. So you can always go out there and get those off our website. We talked about the user manual already, so we'll skip over that a little bit, but Richard showed you where you can go get it, and it also has the link on the website there. And we're down to our Q&A. One of the questions I know somebody popped in a minute ago, and I'm going to see if Richard Mike can show us or explain to us. Now we've got the new CPUs, whether it's this new standard or say an analog. What if customer has or had a basic one, and they want to start using one of these? Can they take their old project and put into one of these?
Oh yeah, sure. I mean, like I said, all you do is go back into the setup and the system configuration, change the processor type to match whatever the new processor you're using is, and the program will convert right over.
Right. Okay. So
yeah,
no problems there.
No problem.
And you could switch back and forth. I mean, as long as obviously if you have analog programmed, it's not going to work in one of these, but
yeah, if you're actually using
features,
analog, but
right.
Certain features may not be available on it. If you take a standard program, put it in a basic, and you're using a real-time clock, obviously it's not going to work in the basic.
Right.
The basic doesn't have a real-time clock.
Right. Okay. If you have any questions for us, yeah, it was a couple of them that popped in, but yeah, ask questions away, and if we don't answer them while we're here live, don't worry, we'll email you afterwards and we'll answer them. But we love questions from our customers. A lot of people, they'll ask them ahead of time before when they sign up as well, so you feel free to do that. If we don't have any more questions, we'll probably go ahead and move forward. Richard, you have anything that you'd heard of or anything you saw being asked?
Not really.
Okay.
You know, for what you're getting though, for starting at $69, I mean, you can't beat it for a PLC.
Yeah, and I have to mention, sort of overheard that one of our, I want to say, large competitors is trying out the free software on a small, cheap, or inexpensive PLC.
Yep.
But even customers in the field are saying, well, yeah, but their tech support still costs money.
Well, that is a consideration. So.
Yeah, we all found that a little bit funny. All right, we're going to stop our Q&A, but like I said, if you have any questions for us, please ask away. You could always email our tech support or call our tech support as well. They're always free, and sometimes if it might be a little over my head, I'll try to get them involved in the questions as well. But I want to thank everybody for coming in, and of course, thanks Richard for doing the little demo there for us. You always do great demos there.